Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this breakout session together with OviDrive. We're very excited to have with us today Laura Friebe from OviDrive. And she will take us to a little journey in how to get the right data out of your fleet and which technology that you'll need to use to get that data. Laura, how are you?
Great, and you, Sven?
Super, super. The sun is shining in Belgium, as Steven mentioned this morning, and it's still the case. That's already a miracle. It's 8 hours of sunshine after each other, so that's going great. That's going great.
All right. I had sunshine in the UK, and it's now overcast and potentially going to rain, but we have enjoyed sunshine as well, so it's been awesome.
Great. All right. So everybody in the audience, so before we kick off, I would like to invite everyone who has any questions for Laura to put them in the chat. And as you know already by now, that at the end of the breakout session, we'll do a short moderation and we will answer, or try to answer at least, any questions that you might have. Laura, the floor is yours. The presentation is on. I will get back in about 5 minutes to the end. So enjoy the presentation. All right?
Thank you, Sven, and thank you for the introduction. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. It's been a really, really interesting morning so far with lots of valuable insights. And I really do hope you gain more insights from our session and time with us this afternoon. So let's talk about mobility. You've seen from this morning, it's not just a term that's now bantered around in the industry. It is most definitely the future of employee transportation. But it means so many different things to so many people. We all want to get there. The challenge we're facing is, of course, how do we effectively get there when we're trying to transition from a dedicated car scenario to a varied mobility platform for our users. If you look at your dedicated car scenario that you currently have, you've got complex data streams that you are having to navigate. You're also dealing with potentially aged policies that are needing to be reviewed, multiple vendors, multiple platforms that you need to access your data on. You're also having to look at how your users' mindset is and willingness to change from a user perspective as well as stakeholders. And to add complexity to all of that is you're potentially managing all of this in Excel. Transitioning to a pool fleet or pool car scenario is a great way to drive buy-in with your users. It has been adopted across many industries already, but you are facing the challenge of managing accessibility to pool cars, such as bookings, key management, damage of assets, return of assets, and just holistically how to navigate various platforms to offer the solution to your users. And then from there, having to navigate to, again, a varied mobility offering. The question I have to ask, and it's something that you should really be considering, is do you have an understanding of your data? What I mean by data is, do you have access to and from utilization of your users, frequency of use, requirements of the use, vendor capability and flexibility, user needs and geographies. So looking at the maturity of the infrastructure in various countries that you operate in, their ability to integrate with the systems that you're currently using, and are you considering offering just one mobility solution? Are you considering offering multiple solutions? From our expertise, it's definitely going to be a combination of dedicated car in certain countries for certain users, pool cars, and then various different mobility solutions. We all have to optimize cost. It's a given in industry today. You're having to understand where your costs are coming from. You also need to get a handle on what your true total cost of ownership is. That's all done through data management. You need to be able to manage complex data streams and increased data streams. So moving to mobility will definitely see an increase in your vendor and transactional data that you're having to deal with. In some instances, 10 times, 20 times more transactional data, because you're going to have multiple vendors that you're utilizing and also giving your users access to. You also need to consider now that you're not just going to have total cost of ownership, but you're also going to have to look at total cost of individual and consider what that would look like for your business. You're going to have to manage a constantly evolving landscape. So how flexible is your policy currently? How flexible are your systems to adapt to new vendors and users coming online? And in order to transition and promote the transition, who are you engaging with in your business? Do you have the required stakeholders on board? Do you have a core team to support you? Are you looking at external expertise to assist you through the transition process? So what are you taking into consideration, or have you already taken into consideration? So what I'd like to share with you today is 7 steps to transition to a mobility offering. The one thing that you do need to, or that we understand and that you would need to take into consideration when going through these steps, is that your business is unique and you would need to look at a unique way to achieve a mobility offering that suits your application and your users holistically. So starting with step 1 is rationalizing your data. As I mentioned earlier, you definitely need to understand the utilization and the usage requirements of your fleet. You need to understand your employees' needs as well as their expectations, their geographies and their lifestyle. You need to understand their to and from usage, cost to drive versus time to commute. I think a lot of the speakers that we've heard earlier today have mentioned similar aspects to take into consideration. You also need to review your business needs. You need to assess business usage versus private usage, and you need to look at what those trends demonstrate for you holistically. You need to look at your CRM. You are servicing customers as a fleet owner, both internally and externally, so those requirements need to be considered as well. And you need to look at operational requirements throughout your business. Maximizing on your existing fleet is vital. We chatted about offering a pool car option for less frequent car users, especially with employees now working from home. It does play a factor. You need to investigate tools that will assist you in managing pool fleet seamlessly. Engage with subject matter experts that will assist you in applying varying different initiatives to drive cost savings. You would have heard today about cost neutrality. It's definitely something that you need to look at in your OPEX, and it's definitely not going to be achieved with retaining just dedicated cars or moving solely to a varied mobility offering. You would need to look at a combination of factors. So one is fleet management improvement with a robust system and support, looking at mobility in country that suits users and geographies, looking at on-demand services, and then what your dedicated car fleet looks like and how that would need to be changed and adopted to suit what you're wanting to achieve. Strategy is core. You need to know your why and the desired outcomes you're wanting to achieve by offering a varied mobility solution to your users. It could be a combination of all of these elements. You would have heard sustainability and electrification and how electrification is supported. You need to look at fleet management and mobility management platforms. Are they seamless? What do they mean? What's available? Is it a global solution? But you really need to consider what is realistic for you to achieve your goal. Is it varied and is it flexible? Vital to this step in the process is your people. So recent surveys that we have conducted have shown employees' willingness to change. It is most definitely a combination of many varied options. It's not a one size fits all. Employees that are coming into your business or that are in your business at the moment have adapted to a more digital way of living. They have access to information at their fingertips, and they are going to expect the same from you as their employer. A varied choice of mobility will make you an employer of choice, but you need to ensure that you have taken all of their needs and expectations into consideration, possibly engaged with a third-party expert to help you understand these needs, expectations, and willingness to move to a mobility solution. The other factor is your internal stakeholders. So that's your functional leaders. It's looking at your compensation and benefits. How would that need to be adapted, and what would the impact be to business overall? So we're almost there. You have access to your data. You've rationalized your data across all the steps we've already covered. You now need to start to build this roadmap to achieving your optimal mobility offering, taking all your users into consideration. So where dedicated cars is really focused on guys that qualify or are eligible for a company car, mobility could mean offering this across your entire employee base. So understand your risks as well as offering risk mitigation. Be very mindful of the timelines, overall business flexibility, how you want to achieve the optimal state of offering mobility. Map out the timelines, transition options, and ensure that you cover all user groups and that you are flexible in what you are proposing. Once you have an understanding of the various elements, you need to ensure that you are ready to amend and make the necessary amendments that are aligned to what you're wanting to achieve. So it's looking at your mobility policy, possibly commuting policies. You need to understand your supply chain, prepare operational infrastructure, make sure the stakeholders are ready to understand the various data streams that could be coming into your business, how they're going to be managed and analyzed, potentially scrutinized against budgets, integrations with both internal and external requirements, understand the changes to reporting, taxation, policy, and impact to governance and compliance. Your policy will need to be flexible. I think I mentioned it earlier, and you've heard through various different speakers today that this is a ever-changing landscape, and there are more and more mobility providers to come onto sort of the coming to view into the future, and you need to take into consideration what that could potentially look like and ensure you have the necessary technology to assist and move forward. Implementation, it all sounds good on paper, but you need to have an agile and collaborative implementation plan. It needs to be aligned to your business needs. It also needs to be realistic. Be robust in your decision-making, in your timelines. Ensure that you include the right stakeholders through the entire process, and make sure that it's mapped out and documented so that there's a way that you can measure it, continuously review, and ensure that you're achieving the necessary milestones and user engagement to make sure that it is a beneficial or mutually beneficial offering to all users within your business. So let's go back to the beginning. At the beginning of the presentation, I said to you that you would need to get to an ideal state, you would need to understand your data. And you would need to have access to the data that you're receiving from the various data streams that impact your fleet currently. So that's your life cycle costs, it's your lease codes, it's your various vendors. You would need to understand your utilization, be comfortable with the accuracy of the data that you're analyzing and making decisions on. You'd have to have access to connected and unconnected asset data, and also ensure that it's on a central platform, that all users or users within your business have access to that information. You'd also need to have access to your drivers through a central platform. They need to have seamless centralized access to the information that is vital to them, and that they could also push information back into the system to ensure that the data is near real time. Your current data needs need to be accurate, relevant, and meaningful to you, and also giving you the necessary reporting that is vital to your business. If you are currently managing invoices and expenses, you also need to make sure that this is done on a central platform, that it is managed timelessly, it is quick, and can be managed on exception, that it's not being managed by reams and reams of transactional data, and that you can literally just go yes, correct, no, process, and make sure that you're feeding the information back into other internal systems that need it, such as payroll and finance, things like CO2 reporting, etc., that it's all valuable and viable. Once you have all your fundamentals aligned, streamlined, and centralized globally, you are most definitely better positioned to embark on the 7-step methodology that I've shared with you. If not, then data consolidation should be your step 0. So key takeouts for me today, and hopefully for you as well: partner with a team that is going to support you long term, that are partners to your business, that can support you not only with the system, but guide you with operational support and industry expertise, and provide you with insights on what will and won't work for your users and your business into the future. Thank you, Sven. So I don't know if I possibly rushed through that really, really quickly, but that is the end of my presentation.
It was great. Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for giving us some insights, at least in how OviDrive looking at mobility as a whole, or the wider spectrum, and how they would advise companies to approach that. I've got a couple of questions which I noted down. I just wanted to reach out to the audience again. If you guys have any questions that you would like to ask Laura, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and we will try to address them later. I'll start with a question of my own, because I saw, we talked a lot about it's important to get data in order to make right mobility decisions. So we'll need data first to actually start the transition towards mobility. Now, of course, data within a corporate environment, that's coming from the fleet in most circumstances. But if you have a company like most of the companies represented here, there will only be a smaller portion of the employees who are entitled to a company car today. So the other employees who will probably have to fit in the mobility strategy in the long run, we don't have a lot of data on them. So how would you suggest to look after, let's say, those employees that do not have a company car today yet? How do we start there to get the data?
So you'd need to understand your existing business platform and the data that you're receiving from there. It will demonstrate a lot of trends in terms of what the vehicles are being used for. Is it just to and from work, or is it to see customers, or is it a combination of both? So the users that don't currently have access to mobility or a company car, that's where you would utilize a survey to better understand what are their needs, where are they based, what ultimately would they be willing to utilize, such as micromobility, or would it be buses or trams, etc. So once you have that statistical information, you would pair it with what you're getting from your existing vehicle users and dedicated fleet, and then start to unpack and rationalize and make decisions as to what would work best as an overall solution and offering in the various countries.
So really going a little bit outside, let's say, the normal data input that you already have, and try to collect them in another way before looking at that. Okay, understood. So a question coming in from Irwan, and I had something similar as well, is if looking at the start. So I'm a mobility manager at a corporation. I want to start with effectively offering a true mobility solution. Where do I start? Do I first look at the different systems and technologies that are available in the market, or do I look to start with, let's say, the dream strategy that I have in my head, which might not be feasible at all? Is that can you advise me in okay, be dreamy or be a little bit more realistic to start with?
I'm definitely going to go with there's no wrong answer on that one. But you need to understand your data. So that would be technology and system first. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you'd be building a strategy on. So it's great to have the blue sky wish list. That's what I ultimately want to achieve, and that's what I want to offer. But you need to have a handle on what's currently happening and what it means for you, and drive certain initiatives from that data, and then align your strategy, planning, and communication and policy from there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's probably the best way to go. Um, Another question. I think it might also follow up a little bit with what Eve has put in the chat, because we saw in OviDrive now, we saw services, systems, or consultancy, outsourcing part. When does that step in, and how does that step in, and has that got something to do with the nice announcement that we saw earlier on main stage? Can you give us some view on that?
So outsourcing your fleet management, what that would mean for you as a fleet owner?
Yes.
Okay, so outsourcing is definitely something to consider. A lot of companies that we are engaging with are under-resourced and also don't have the required skill set in order to effectively scrutinize the information, cleanse data, etc. So by outsourcing that element to experts such as OviDrive, you have the ability to rely on them to analyze it effectively and give you information that's meaningful back into your business so that you can make informed decisions. So it's great to have all three elements: system, services, and then also bring in the consulting arm as well. It just adds another level of support to fleet owners in terms of trying to achieve their ultimate goal, be it mobility, sustainability, electrification, cost savings.
Okay, great. And the impact of the Shell investment, Laura, I must ask the question because the audience is curious. What do you expect will that impact have as a positive result for OviDrive, obviously?
It is great for OviDrive in the sense that it is really going to allow us to expand and develop a lot quicker, and allow us to provide more meaningful information and support to our customers into the future. So we really are excited by the Shell investment.
Great. Congratulations again on that one.
Thanks to the team.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for this interesting presentation. We look forward in seeing you at one of our next or upcoming events. To the audience, I think we now go back to main stage immediately, because at 3:30 we have the final session starting, which is a closing executive panel discussion with our founding partners of the Smart Mobility Conference. Thank you very much, and thank you, Laura, for this great presentation.
Thank you, Sven.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.